Hey everyone, welcome to Wildlife Inspired. This is your channel for photography, wildlife, and wildlife photography. And in today's video, is minimum focus distance irrelevant for wildlife photographers? Well, I got a pretty strong opinion on this quick thoughts video. Stay tuned right after this. And in today's quick thoughts videos, my opinions on minimum focus distance for wildlife photography. And it all started with a video over here comparing the 400mm lens to the 600mm prime lenses. Two really wonderful lenses. And in that comparison, I talked about things like sharpness, but I spent a lot of time on minimum focus distance, probably more time than any video that I've ever known to talk about these two lenses, because I wanted to show this feature. We compare things. There's a ton of videos out there, and many of them have compared things like sharpness. We know that a 400mm 2.8 lens has one stop more available light. So we know those things, but what a lot of people just gloss over is minimum focus distance. So I wanted to spend some time on that. And from my perspective, it was worthy of a conversation, but in the comments, several comments mentioned minimum focus distance is irrelevant for wildlife photography. Minimum focus distance doesn't matter. I may get bold enough to put some of those comments over here. I generally do not call people out on my channel, so I will obscure any names in there. Interestingly enough, I was doing some research for another video, and I found myself on a bulletin board. By the way, it was a very well-run bulletin board. I have my thoughts and opinions on just that whole practice of bulletin boards and their usefulness. I don't know if I'll ever share them on this channel, but I thought as I was reading this comment, I wonder if they ever comment on my videos on here. And so I researched it and I looked up, and sure enough, somebody made the same comment. By the way, they also called me smug. I will tell you, they don't know me. So I try to be a pretty humble guy on this channel. The smugness may have come across in the fact that I say I can shoot at minimum focus distance, or that I do often. And maybe there was a perception that other people can't, and therefore I was bragging about being able to do it. I don't know if it came across that way. It certainly didn't mean to. What I meant to say is that I often do shoot at minimum focus distance. It does require a lot of field work. And I've got three concepts I want to talk about this video. It's going to be really, really short today. One comment theme was around you can't do it, meaning it's impossible to do minimum focus distance photography. Now, for the sake of minimum focus distance, I'm going to use this idea of 15 feet. 15 feet is the minimum focus distance approximately for most 600mm prime lenses. It's not for all, some zoom lenses are different, but for most. So the comment was, or the comments themes were, you can't get inside 15 feet for wildlife photography, it's irrelevant. I'll deal with that in a minute. The second one is you shouldn't do it, meaning if you're within minimum focus distance, you're too close. And I'll talk about that real quickly. The last one was it doesn't work, meaning if you're using a stronger lens, a bigger lens, longer focal length, and you are that close to a bird, and I was using the distance of like 8 or 9 feet. If you're that close to your subject, I should say, you're too close, meaning the image won't be good. I'm going to talk about all three of those things, but I want to start with the one that really, really got to me, which is you can't do it. So what I'm going to do as an experiment, this will take just a couple minutes. I'm on the side. I put together a really quick album on my Flickr page. And I'm just going to hit the slideshow button. I'm going to let it play. Now, every image over there that you see is going to display for like 5 seconds. I'll put it on for 5 seconds. I bet you by the time I'm done talking, that thing still hasn't looped through yet. And I didn't find every picture I took. I just took the last couple of years. Everything that I can specifically remember being less than 15 feet. Many of these at 8 feet, and I even have one or two in here that I took with a 300mm lens at probably less than 8 feet. So the point is, you say I can't do it or it can't be done, I'm going to show you dozens of images over the years that it has happened. Part of this is style. And it's from my standpoint and from the commenter standpoints. We have different styles. That doesn't mean it can't happen. In my video, I may have come across this, say like, hey, my style is that I can do this, so therefore everybody does it. I think from other people's standpoint is, I've never been inside of 15 feet with a bird. Now, I am going to try to put my smugness in check when I say this. But if you have never been inside 15 feet for bird photography, work on your field craft a little bit. It can be done, and it can be done without the use of attraction or setups or putting bird feeders out or any of that other stuff. A lot of the images you see over there are actually taken during migration because I just know areas that work really, really well for this application. So that's my slideshow. I don't know if I went through the whole thing, but plenty of images over there. In fact, I think I had one image, I'll pop it up here real quick, with a northern parula, a type of warbler, a songbird, that was probably 5 feet away. And I was using a lens that I had to retract the zoom lens. Even my 400 millimeter lens would have been too big for that bird. So I had to actually pull back the lens because the bird happened to be feeding right on the side of the road, using my car as a blind. There's just so many strategies to do this. I'm not going to go through them all in this video, but I'm just going to hear. I promise you, if you're doing bird photography, you can get inside of 15 feet. I showed you a bunch of examples. It is a stylistic difference. This may not work for you, and that's okay. I say this as much as I can. There is not a right or wrong style. What works for me may not work for you. The things I do in the field may not be the things you do in the field, but I'm just going to tell you, 100% of the time, you can get inside of 15 feet to shoot birds, and it actually works really, really well. I will tell you, if you're shooting tigers, wherever wild tigers are, if you're doing that, or if you're shooting, wolves and stuff, I don't suggest getting inside 15 feet. That one's going to be tough. Polar bears inside 15 feet, probably not the way to go. But I'm a bird photographer, and a lot of my slant is towards bird photography. I love songbirds, so a lot of my slant is towards songbirds. And so I just wanted to show you that it can happen. I even put some waterfowl in there. All right, let's talk about the second point. The second point was, I think you're too close for two reasons. One, too close meaning maybe you're impeding the subject or you're not getting natural behavior. I got to tell you, I thrive on photographing natural behavior. I do not like agitated birds. I don't like birds that are doing unnatural things. I don't like birds in unnatural environments. So when I see a bird, a quick example here, I've seen pictures like this. I see a bird that dwells in the deep forest, kind of think like evergreen trees and moody, and then I see him photographed on a flowering, non-native perch. I'm thinking that doesn't feel right to me. So I love capturing birds in their native environments, in their usual environments where it feels right for them. I will tell you, there's not an impact if you are quiet and not moving and not disturbing things, because when you do impact all that stuff, when you do move around a lot or make noise, you're not well hidden. When you do all that, you're not going to get inside minimum focus distance. It's very, very tough unless you're dealing more with, I'll call them yard birds, but birds that are very comfortable with people. So yes, you can get inside of minimum focus. I showed you a whole bunch of examples. Two, I don't think there's any problem with actually being inside of minimum focus when it comes to dealing with birds or any subject. But again, know your subjects, because there's quite a few that don't make sense inside 15 feet. If that's your style, then the video that I did probably didn't make a lot of sense to you. But the last one is, you're too close because you're too close, meaning the images, you're just too close. I'm going to tell you this, and I can't believe the things I do for this channel. It's 20 degrees out there today. I went out with my 400 millimeter lens. I have a setup here that I can attract birds. So I don't always put bird seed out. I'm gonna put some bird seed out. I put some bird seed out. I took this picture at 400 millimeters with no teleconverter. By the way, when you do this, the images are extremely sharp. So I got a really, really sharp image. Do not judge me on the quality of this image. It is not a great photograph. What I'm only representing here is dimensions. So proportions of the subject at 400 millimeters at minimum focus with a small bird versus the rest of the scene. And I think the proportions, without any cropping, I think they're just like perfect. They're not too tight. They're not too loose. They're just ideal. So this idea that 8 feet is too close because the subject is way too big. Again, if you shoot coyotes, if you shoot tigers, if you're shooting rams, you shoot a muskox, you are going to be extremely close if you are 8 feet away from it. I do not recommend any of that, by the way. I've done videos on being too close to subjects, and yes, 100% of the time that matters. But as a bird photographer, I'm often dealing with this idea of bird photography, and maybe I just need to do a better job in the future of distinguishing when I talk about wildlife photography and bird photography, but I think my audience kind of knows me. So anyway, just a real quick thoughts video. I hope you like my examples today. Oh heck, I'll flash a couple more of them up here if I forgot to put them in here. All images taken inside of 15 feet for sure. Most of them taken inside of 10 feet. This whole idea that minimum focus distance is irrelevant, well, it is not irrelevant for me. It doesn't have to be irrelevant for you. I think it is pertinent to the right genre, the right photographer in the right situation. And to be honest, if you can do it, man, the detail you can get on the subject is really, really terrific. The proportions can be really, really, really nice. And the intimacy, when you're in those situations, and I'm photographing, put one up here real quick, because I can remember this. These aren't like stellar images that I would put on my wall, but I just want to talk about the intimacy you feel standing still in the middle of a meadow, and the common yellowthroat just pops right up in front of you, starts preening, starts, kind of just doing natural behaviors, and he's right in front of you. That intimacy is really, really special. So even outside of the images, we don't want to disturb the birds. We don't want to be in imposition. We don't want to be so close that we're harassing. We don't chase. So I don't endorse any of that. But when you're just there and the bird is close like that, the subject is close like that, man, it just feels really, really intimate. It feels really, really good to me. Did this make sense? Did I make the point? So those comments about minimum focus being irrelevant, it might be irrelevant for you, but it's not irrelevant for everybody. And if you can do it, if you can practice it, if you can work on it, I think you actually will really, really enjoy these very close, intimate looks, both the experience and then the actual output. The images can be super, super, super nice. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Really curious about this one. Did it make sense? Down in the comments, you let me know. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. That's number one. Number two, you're going to hit that bell for notifications. Number three, you're going to hit that like button. Do all of that. It helps push this content out. I get a lot of great feedback down in the comments. People really, really like the style of these videos, kind of organic. I don't script a whole lot out. So if you like that, there are other people that are going to like it. And I'm still amazed how many people, I've been doing this for about 3 years, this style video, and I'm amazed how many people say, I just came across your channel. It just means we're not getting this channel out there enough. So make sure you do all three of those things. I hope you liked the video. And as always, to my wildlife photography friends, I hope we can continue to find inspiration in wildlife together.